Clear the throat. Hello folks, how's it going? This is Minuteman, and I am here with AquaDragon33 for another episode of Trash Tier No Fear. This is episode 3. We're going to be discussing AquaDragon's solo queue champions here. He names a couple off-meta ones. I'm going to be discussing them with you tonight. How you doing today?
I'm doing good.
Alright then. So, can you just introduce yourself really quickly?
Yeah, so I'm AquaDragon33. I was Master 1 in Season 4, currently in Diamond at the time of this interview. And my claim to fame is AD Malzahar.
Alright then. Well, so, just to let everybody know, we're in the evening of patch 5.6, so there's a lot of Season 5 changes going through right now, and we're just going to go through a quick rapid-fire round here. We're just going to kind of get the standard stuff out of the way, like who are you, what you do, like what your hobbies, location are, and then from there we'll go into an open table discussion. So I'm going to ask these questions kind of quickly. So as you said, AquaDragon33, AD Malzahar Jungle is where you got it. You made Masters?
Yep.
Okay, Season 4 Masters. You have any hobbies? Where you at? Like, location in America, I would imagine, since you play NNA.
Yeah, I am living in an apartment with 2 roommates and 5 cats.
5?
Oh, I don't see any of them right now. But, besides League, I like playing Hearthstone a lot with a Warlock deck based around AoE clear, and also like writing, reading, etc. A couple of other things.
Okay, then do you play any of the games or stream anything else we might want to know about?
I don't stream anything else, though. I think what's also fairly notable is that I've written a fairly large number of guides that have a significant detail in them for anybody who gets interested in any of this.
We will have some of your Mobile guides linked up in the description. You guys can check those down below. We will have, I think you have the guide for Orianna and the guide for Malzahar up. Those are pretty detailed. Any other champions or roles you play? Oh, let me just start by saying this straight up. What is your besides AD Jungle Malzahar, what is the other champions you main in separate roles and things like that?
Alright, so there's 5 champions in total, I believe. There's AD Jungle Malzahar, who we've gone over. There's AP Kog'Maw at middle, who I build fairly non-standard as far as AP Kog'Maws go. For anybody who is an AP Kog'Maw main, you'll understand. For anybody who isn't, it looks weird anyway.
The Rylai's Rush?
Yeah, Rylai's Rush, AP Kog'Maw. And people are like, oh, why do you only have 150 AP? It's like, you don't need AP on AP Kog'Maw. It's kind of weird.
AP? I've got base damage.
Exactly.
I'll show
then
you
there's
this after the after lobby. Check the damage and watch what happens.
Yeah, precisely. I also play Support Vel'Koz. You run Ghost on it instead of Exhaust, because I don't like Exhaust very much on it. Besides that, it's fairly standard Support Vel'Koz. There's nothing too interesting about it. People find it boring. I like it anyway. Then there's Support Orianna, who I've been practicing very heavily. And it's taught me a lot about support, and I'm not very... I learned this season I'm not that good at support.
Well, hey, acceptance is the first step to, advancement.
Yeah, precisely. I'm just glad I learned that...
What happened to the Tank Karthus?
Oh, right, and those are the next 2. There's my Tank Karthus build that got me to high platinum very long ago. I'm working on a Smurf so I can play it some more ranked without throwing it straight into Diamond, because that doesn't seem like it would go very well. And the final one, which has attracted a lot of attention, is my Marksman Azir build, which seeks to put Marksman into the bottom role, where an AD carry normally would go, building attack speed items with a mixture of AP, such as Renan's Hurricane, Ginso's Rage Blade, Nashor's Tooth, Void Staff, and a few other things.
I haven't seen that one on stream yet. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's a ton of fun.
Okay, then, so, what we'll do from here on out is I just want to let you know that we're going to be trying to focus on the champions who play the most, so we're going to try sticking with AD Malzahar and Support Orianna. We can hear more about those other champions maybe in the future. We'll do a follow-up episode, but for now we'll try to stick to those ones.
Yeah.
So let's just start out. We're at the end of the rapid-fire round, I guess. We're just going with the broad stuff here. First off, let's start by talking about Season 5. What are some things that you've, anything you want to discuss or anything about Season 5 that you're interested in? I'm kind of interested with the way the meta is rapidly shifting since, the old standards that got placed on a pedestal towards the end of Season 4 are kind of knocked off that pedestal. There's a lot of junglers who are nerfed and a lot of junglers that are coming up. There's a lot of fluctuation in top lane now that a lot of top laners are getting nerfed. Jarvan got nerfed. Lee Sin got nerfed. There's a lot of nerfs kind of knocking off those sacred cows at the top. How do you feel about Season 5?
Yeah, so what I think about Season 5 is, like, it's kind of funny. A lot of people, like, at the start when the preseason began, you would be surprised how many people said, this is the death of AD Malzahar. This is, like, oh, this is going to destroy them, and etc., etc. It was, like, doom and gloom stories. And my opinion, on the other hand, was, I think, from the position of information that I had, I saw something more promising, and I rightfully estimated that Malzahar wouldn't actually get any weaker, and in fact would get stronger, which is exactly what we saw happen. Compare, for example, that in the Season 4, AD Malzahar could only solo dragon starting from level 4. Maybe so level 3 if you were like crazy and were okay being at 50 HP afterward. And now, since the beginning of the preseason, AD Jungle Malzahar is one of the few people that's been able to, and still is able to, do a level 2 dragon straight from blue buff and still get a camp right afterward, barely taking any damage. It's kind of ridiculous.
So on that note, when we're talking about Malzahar, I guess we'll just go straight into him. When it comes to just his main core strength, has just remained the same. It's basically just ridiculous objective control, very good scaling with the creeps. So is there anything like I'm just kind of going? Do you want to delve more into that?
Mm-hmm. Right, that's precisely right. AD Jungle Malzahar is not orientated around like what AP Malzahar is. Their primary strength is not team fights. They're certainly not weak in them. It's about the dragons. It's about the barons. It's about the towers. It's about primarily being able to use such great utility while still maintaining damage. Because there's a lot of champions where you have to make a decision whether you are going to use the utility of your spell or get the damage of your spell, and you can't have both.
AKA Lee Sin when he gets that early killer too and says, is the Hydra the best item right now? I think it is. I want to murder everything.
Yeah, and a little bit more fundamental than that. Think about Cho'Gath's Rupture, for example. I think that's like a great example of something that you can't balance the two amazingly all the time. And AP Cho'Gath has to use Rupture to do damage. If they don't use Rupture, their teamfight contribution is basically nothing. But if you use Rupture for your damage, and you're spamming as quickly as you can't save it for critical moments, like for channeled CCs, for the Katarina ult, and etc. You have to make a sacrifice.
Yeah, peeling somebody.
Right, and that's where AD Malzahar is useful, because Call of the Void has a 3-second silence, the ult has a 2.5 second suppress, and you don't have to make that compromise. You can use those straight for the utility, while keeping all the damage from your Voidlings.
Oh, alright. So, I just want to kind of go to a different kind of subject here. We're going to talk more about, like, the concept of you playing champions that are considered bad. Personally, I see you pick Orianna Support, and every single time you do, you have to basically walk into court, put down your case, assert to the rest of the room that this is legit, folks. Look at my history, or don't do this, and we're going to be all right, because everybody's ready to jump off the cliff. How do you feel regarding solo queue and like when people rage at you? Is there some kind of mental gymnastics you do? Because I play some off-meta stuff too, and it's kind of hard when you're first starting to play these champions or trying to play them in a ranked scenario, especially up in Diamond where everything just gets turned up to an nth degree. Do you what do you do? How do you feel about people raging at you, whining at you when you're playing your champions?
Yeah, all right. So there's two things to note. One is that I'm very fortunate that I actually it's kind of weird, but I almost never get stressed or angry or anything. Like, I'm almost incapable of it, so that really has helped a lot. But second, and this sounds cheesy until I explain it a little bit more, is confidence, right? Like, that sounds super cheesy, but knowing when you're right allows you to ignore people when they're wrong. You certainly wouldn't care if somebody up on the street went up to you and said, hey, the moon is going to kill you tomorrow. You would be like, what? That's stupid, you're wrong.
Unless you're playing Majora's Mask, then like you're going to look up and you're going to see the face and you're going to say, I wouldn't be surprised. This might happen. Like, I'm not too worried about it. But
yeah, which means that the hobo sees a different Link than you, as far as the moon is concerned. And so, like that, it's similar in solo queue and in a lot of things. Is that, it's like I've explored these things, I've theory crafted them, I practiced them, and I know what I'm doing, and I know what I'm doing. So I don't care when people say that, like, you don't know what you're doing, because I know they're wrong.
Okay, so that's kind of what you fall back on, is just the reassurance that, hey, I've done this before and it's worked, so why am I any wronger now that you found the need to yell at me about it?
Mm-hmm. Precisely.
Right. So, in regards to Malzahar, AD Jungle, what had made you start with him?
It's kind of a funny history. So like the first champion, like I've always liked monsters, right? I like monster champions. My first champion that I played in League was basically Cho'Gath, and I liked the design of the Void monster. So the next champion I picked up was AP Kog'Maw because it looked like a really fun champion's play style, and it was. And so like after a certain point, it's like, well, I'm playing all these Void monsters, right? I'm playing Kog'Maw, I'm playing Cho'Gath. We might as well add Malzahar in, right? And if I'm playing AP Cog, well, why don't we try AD Malzahar out? Because AP Cog is an alternative build, AD Malz is an alternative build. I initially started experiments at top of AD Malzahar. It went badly. It was terrible. It wasn't, well, not like super terrible, but I wasn't very good at it. It was sort of subpar, and I put the experiments on the back burner for a while. And then one day it just occurred to me, hey, what about the jungle? So tried it out, and it turned out that it actually worked really, really well. And after that point, I was forced into a ranked game with it one day because of awkward circumstances that were beyond my control. Cho'Gath was my jungler at the time. I think the opponents picked Cho'Gath. And I didn't feel it was ready. I was like, no, this thing needs way more practice. It's not optimized, etc., etc. And then we won the game anyway.
Trial by fire.
Yeah, exactly. Precisely. I didn't, this is still back in Season 3.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so...
I wasn't... so wait, so you were using a Lizard Elder and things like that? That seems like it might be a little easier back then because of Spirit Stone and everything.
Yeah, Spirit Stone definitely made sustaining in the jungle a little bit better. Though, fortunately, the increased emphasis on objectives has still made Malzahar stronger than they were in the previous season.
Yeah. So, when it comes to Malzahar, you started playing him... This was back in Season 3, you said you started?
Right.
Okay, so what's kind of further than that? What has kept you playing him for so many games? Like, do you have a vague estimate of how many games you've played him?
Probably like almost 1,000 at this point, I'd say.
Jesus H. Christ.
Yeah.
Right up there. So what keeps you playing him? I know you said you just gravitate to monster champions. You like ones that have like that different thing. I'm surprised you don't play more Rek'Sai in that case.
I do, but nobody gets to see it. I played in normal games.
You gotta stream it. Come on now.
No, nobody cares about that. They're here for the Malzahar, man.
Oh, don't worry.
They're here for the Malzahar.
Well, regardless, so what keeps you gravitating towards? Well, let's just, like I said, I'll try to stick to these champions for the time being. What keeps you gravitated towards AD Malzahar and maybe Support Orianna? Is there something in particular that you think keeps you playing them, or is it just basically something you like?
I've always loved like play styles that revolve around minion mancing. Like the ability to use movable minions to be able to do what you want. That's like, it's always appealed to me when I played Warcraft 3. You know, I'd pick like Jaina and I just spam water elementals and like, move them around.
You must have really liked playing the custom maps with all the tower defense separate games. Yeah, that seems like it would be really good. Yeah. So, is that why you also like playing Azir? Because he's basically that incarnate in the bot lane?
Right, and that's sort of why I'm working with the Marksman Azir experiments, is because Azir at mid doesn't feel like a minion mancer. They feel like LeBlanc.
I can understand that, yeah.
Yeah, you're not using your soldiers. Your soldiers just happen to be there.
It must be a tough time to play him, though, considering he had maybe 2 patches where he was right at the top of the hill, and then him, Syndra, and a couple other mages just got their rug taken out from under them. Now they're just kind of sitting around waiting for buffs. Yeah,
I was fortunate. Marksman Azir was barely impacted by it, which is nice.
All right then. So I kind of want to zero in now on like the champions in general and how you feel about them in regards to the rest of solo queue. Now the show is called Trash Cheer No Fear. I'm kind of looking to take the point of view of somebody that's playing these champions when everybody thinks these champions are bad or not viable or like undervalued. I'm kind of looking for your perspective as somebody who's played these champions for so long. We'll start with AD Malzahar. I'm going to ask you the same question twice. So, how do you feel about people's perception of AD Malzahar? When I first heard about AD Malzahar, I said, I guess that could work, but it's dumb, isn't it? Like, it's a bad idea. He's squishy. You can dive him. Like, I didn't see the benefit, and I didn't see a lot of the things that make him good. I kind of just assumed it was a cheese build that might work when people don't know how to play against him. How do you feel regarding people's thoughts on AD Malzahar?
I think those initial impressions are fair because, like, a lot of people aren't aware of the underlying things that make AD Malzahar strong. The first is, that thing I mentioned earlier. You don't have to make that sacrifice between utility and damage. You can get both. So, and that's something you don't really think about very much.
The way that you're saying, like the way that the minions work, it's just no matter what you do, you're going to have obscene objective control, and you're going to be able to do what you do regardless of items. Yeah, and you're always going to have extreme utilities, even if you fall behind, which is really nice. Is that tied to? Sorry to cut you short. Is that tied to his ultimate more than anything, or just the way his minions work? The silence is absolutely key to how AD Malzahar works so strongly. I almost completely forgot about it. I guess when you get so many games in your belt, you realize how strong that is. Isn't it like a 2.5 or 3 second silence at max rank? 3 second silence, making it the longest CC duration spell in the entire game right now. How many seconds? 3. Isn't that the same? Cho'Gath's isn't even that long. Am I correct? Cho'Gath's goes to 2.5. Jesus H. I didn't know it was 3 seconds. See, you learn something new every day. Yeah, Ash's arrow hits you for 3 seconds at maximum range. Wow, I had no idea that it was 3 seconds long. That's insane. So, okay, sorry to cut you off again, but yeah, you can keep going in regards to, you feel that people 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 have fair criticisms, but they don't realize the true thing that makes Malzahar strong.
Yeah, and the second thing is sustained damage just isn't very flashy. Burst damage, it's flashy, it's easy, it's reliable. It also doesn't do as much as sustained damage by the nature of it, right? That's just sort of how it works.
There's a reason. There's a reason assassins are only in so many games and AD carries are in every game. I think sustained damage gets a bad rap.
Yeah, and I think the biggest math thing that I had inside of my guide, and I'm going to repeat the sentence almost verbatim from it, is that AP Malzahar has about a 1 to 2-ish AP scaling every 7 seconds or so, as far as damage is concerned, right? Because that's how much you get in, your spells or whatever.
Yeah.
AD Malzahar has with 2 foilings out, which is very easy to do. You can do 1 to 2.5 AD scaling of damage every single second, which adds up very, very fast, especially against, and this is why objective control is so strong, stationary targets.
So just that concept of, hey, I've got ridiculous scaling with these minions and the way they work with my AD scaling. Once I've got an AD item or 2 completed, I'm going to be able to deal consistently strong damage if I can keep casting spells.
Yeah, precisely.
Okay, so what do you think is, what do you think about, and the same question I'm just going to ask you, like I said before, about Orianna. Do you feel Orianna support is undervalued? Because honestly, I thought it wasn't even a thing until I watched, and then I realized, wow, her E is good enough by itself, and then comboed with her ultimate and all the other spells she has, it just becomes better and better because her kit is so well-rounded.
Yeah, I think that part of what's making it hard is, like AD Malzahar, and this is kind of funny, people see me playing Support Orianna, and, I'm not doing awesomely yet, and they expect me to be, like, this master player Support Orianna when, one, nobody's ever really done this before. So I'm making things up as I go along and having to optimize the play style. I've just like yesterday, I just made some more modifications to the build actually, and 2, like it's very easy to ignore those hidden stats like that 30 extra armor and MR. That means your AD carry has 30% more HP.
That's like giving them a free fully stacked Graves passive.
Yeah.
That's kind of ridiculous. Actually, now that I think about it, Orianna Graves is probably a fantastic.
It is. They get like 120 armor at the end of the game.
It turns him into like a basic tank. He can't be dived. That's ridiculous. Okay,
yeah,
well. So let me restate the question in regards to Orianna. I'm just thinking, what do you think people's main mistake is when they see you playing Orianna support and just think, okay, this is never gonna work? What do you think what do you think about their perception of you playing Orianna, and how do you think they might be right or wrong?
I know. I already know the answer. Like I definitely know. The biggest mistake people make is assuming that Orianna support is a poke support. Yeah. Orianna support. Intuitively, like, that makes sense. That's understandable. However, Orianna support as a poke support who builds AP is super, super outclassed by people like Vel'Koz. Even Xerath support can probably poke far better than an Orianna support that's itemizing for AP and poke damage. It is building them as a pure utility support in lieu with, like, Janna, that you were able to fully get out all the extreme utility that underlies inside your kit. That's the biggest mistake people make.
Okay, well, I would put her in the same kind of category, because when you see, I watch you playing Orianna support, and I kind of say, yeah, this is very similar to John. I guess the similarities are there. She's just raw utility-based, and you're not winning trades so much as you're dominating skirmishes. You're not really just saying, okay, now we have more health than you, or now we won that trade. You're saying, okay, well, I got the armor on my champion, I got the armor on my AD carry, we're got much better positioning, now we're going to hurt you, I got my ult off, I got my speed boost off, we're escaping or we're engaging. There's a lot of just active skirmishing going on with Orianna.
Yeah, and part of that, is like, as long as you have that ball on your ADC, they essentially have a shield that's been there the entire time that you just can't see. So, for example, my Graves has like 1,000 HP, right?
Yeah.
If I keep the ball on them during the entire laning phase, that means that even if I can't see it, they've had 100 more HP effectively during the entire laning phase that I've kept the ball on them.
All right then. Okay, well, past that, so that's pretty good. These people's perceptions of the champions are they're not really necessarily bad. They're just, you're saying that they don't realize just how strong they can be when applied properly. Like, people don't know about the scaling of the Voidlings. People don't know about the scaling of Orianna's E and things like that.
The silence duration, yeah, exactly.
That too,
like,
very much.
I
Even I didn't know that. I'm the one interviewing you. That's a bad reflection on me, is what that is. Okay, well, regardless, we're going to move on. I think mainly people want to hear about the AD Malzahar, so I'm going to try to stick to him for these next couple questions, and then we'll do the same thing for Orianna right afterwards. So, going into Malzahar himself as an AD champion, playing him that way, and playing him in the jungle, which is something maybe not anybody even considered. I know not a lot of people considered. Even when I played AD Malzahar, I tried him out as a goof. I thought mid lane was the place to go, just to kind of cheese it out and kind of farm up and just push. So when people are using AD Malzahar, you're somebody who's written a guide, you're somebody who's played these many games, you got masters playing it mainly.
Yeah.
What do you think is the main thing these people who are playing Malzahar in the AD, in the jungle, should consider to win games? Like, what do you think people should do if they're trying to do the same thing as you?
All right, so the biggest thing is, I mean, like, I just cannot emphasize it enough, is that objectives are your objective.
Yeah.
Yeah, like ganking and like other stuff is sort of secondary to the goal of securing objectives. A lot of times, and like some people, especially on my stream, will notice that I don't flash and I end up dying. And they're like, well, why didn't you use that flash? And I say, well, it's because I couldn't secure an objective if I flashed right there. And then 3 minutes later, I noticed a dragon spawning in 30 seconds. I will go down to the bottom lane, wait, flash ult, we get a kill. We have now secured a free dragon, even if I died earlier because I didn't use that flash then.
So you're saying just put all the pawns and put all your eggs in the basket of objectives. No matter you're dying, it doesn't matter. You're not some flashy ganker. You're not some ridiculous snowball champion. You're a champion that dominates objectives as long as you keep your eye on the prize. Is what you're saying.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And the second thing is that people overvalue damage a lot.
Yeah.
One of the things people notice a lot is that I almost never upgrade my Muramana inside of my games, which surprises people because it's fairly cheap. It's very cheap damage, and they go, well, why don't you upgrade it?
Wait, what do you mean? Do you mean upgrading the Muramana? Do you mean upgrading the tier?
Oh yes. I mean upgrading the tier into Manamuna. My bad.
Sure. No problem. Muramana, yeah.
Sorry. And so they ask, why don't you finish your Manamuna? You never finish your Manamuna. That's dumb. And I said, the reason is because damage isn't going to always get you more objectives. Damage isn't always going to win you more team fights. Living longer, getting utility out of Twin Shadows or Black Cleaver, that's going to win you team fights. That's going to make you stronger, not just having your Voidlings do more damage.
Just want to put this right out there. I don't think any other champion can straight up say, yeah, I'm deciding between Black Cleaver or Twin Shadows. I'm pretty sure that's the biggest differentiation of a gap that I can think of. I need utility. Let me buy between this AP kiting and chasing item or raw tank shredding murderousness with CDR and AD. I don't think there's a more concise thing about how AD Malz works. Sorry to cut you short there. I just found that funny.
There was a funny build I actually did not even too many games ago. I wonder if it's in my match history. I'm not sure if it's there, but It was an AD Malzahar game, and what I ended up building was Morellonomicon, and I was moving into Zonya's next. I was still AD Malzahar.
Was there a Mundo on the other team by chance?
No, they had Vladimir and a few others.
There you go. I'm looking for the Mega Sustain. All you need is a Swain player and a Mundo player to make that team complete and just say, well, I'm just going to buy Morellonomicon and ruin your day.
Oh, and I think they had Warwick too, maybe. That might have been it. I think it was Warwick. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Jesus. So, Vladimir and Warwick? No wonder.
Yeah, like, it was sustain heavy.
All right, then. So, I guess we'll just ask the same question about Orianna here. We'll just ask that, what's something somebody who might be playing Orianna Support should keep in mind if they want to actually win a game or, play, just straight up play Orianna Support? What should you keep in mind?
All right, so the first thing is, like I mentioned earlier, don't play Orianna Support as a poke support. It's not optimal. It can work. Everything can work. Yeah, it's probably not the best way to make it work.
She's not based off of winning trades in the bot lane because of the minions, the shortness of the lane. It's easier to lose trades down there.
Mana. Yes, mana.
That too.
Orianna Support is so mana intensive. You cannot use your ball to poke or you will run out of mana very fast.
Yeah.
The second thing is that that also means that your ADC is generally much better for trading than you. Like, Janna can get away with shielding themselves and then, moving up to the ADC on the opposing team and, auto-attacking them a few times. Orianna Support has trouble getting away with that most of the time. Because if you move the ball to yourself, you have to throw it on your AD carry right afterward. So your shield basically costs twice as much as it actually says if you're going to do that. And if you don't put it on your AD carry, that's probably a bad thing.
Okay, so stay away from a poke oriented matchup. If you want to do that, you recommend somebody, I don't know, Lulu, Vel'Koz, maybe even Xerath, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
So what should they focus on? Is just like when it comes to like winning a fight, playing well, getting assists, doing your job as a support with Orianna.
Yeah, during the laning phase, it's just shielding, and I can understand that criticism from a lot of people. Is that
cut and dry.
Yeah, like during laning phase, you're shielding, maybe you speed up here or there, help out with the ganks. After the laning phase, that's where Orianna support really becomes fun. During team fights, one, you're going to be at 40% CDR very fast because that's what Ori support itemizes for very first, almost before anything else.
You want to itemize into CDR just to have your ultimate up because it is such a fantastic team fighting spell.
Not the ultimate actually. It's the shield and the speed up, which go on to becoming the shield is the low at 40% is the lowest cooldown shield in the game,
What's the
lower than
cooldown?
Janus. It becomes 5.4 seconds.
You're joking.
No, that's lower than Janus.
You're giving your AD carry 30 armor and how many health? How much health? Like 150, 200, something along those lines?
Well, the armor, yeah, the armor and MR is always constant, but the shield can be put on every 5 seconds or so.
Wait a second. So if the shield breaks, does it still provide the armor and the MR?
Yes.
So it's like old John's shield, where if it's not broke, even if it's broken, you retain the stats.
Right.
Okay, well, we probably shouldn't have told anybody that because now Riot's going to go ahead and fix it. Oh, God. I'm so sorry. See, we just killed Orianna support. That's all it took. It was a crappy video on YouTube. But
It's okay.
regardless, that's good to know. So, folks, if you're watching, play some Orianna support. Might want to learn that. Oh, God, I hope Lemon Nation's not watching. Cloud9's in a bad place right now. I don't want them to let the cat out of the bag. Okay. Regardless, so when it comes to team fighting, you were saying that when you get to team fighting stage, when you get out of lane phase, that's when Orianna support becomes fun. It's not just the shielding, but what else are you saying about team fighting that makes her so good?
You can't stop casting spells. You always literally have something to do. You always have somebody to shield. You always have someone to speed up, someone to slow down, someone to ult, something, somewhere to move, board. There's like, you just have so much to do, and there are so many choices to make at every single half second. You gotta just think very fast.
There's so many opportunities for
Yes.
assists. It's just so good. But
Oh yeah,
but
you get so
I
many
guess
assists.
I guess when you take Orianna and you play her in a fashion that isn't based on, oh, I have to poke this, I have to poke that, I have to land my ball aggressively. When you take that, she just becomes a really good, like when you don't have to worry about dealing damage, when you don't have to worry about putting yourself in the middle of the fight like a mid laner like an Ahri would. When you don't have to worry about that, she becomes this utility monster who's always just trying to spruce up the AD carry, move in and out of the fight, zone out, put that ult down, maybe catch somebody in a really good combination. I guess that is a good way to play her, just kind of funneling on that utility rather than the damage.
Right, and this goes back to something that I'm reiterating all the time. And like I said it earlier with the AD Malzahar, and this applies especially with Orianna, is you don't have to make that trade-off between damage and utility. You can always save your shield for the best moment, instead of having to think, wait, if I shield over there, do I get to hit them? But what if I need to protect my AD carry? What about my speed up and etc.? Like, you don't have to make that trade-off.
All right then.
Well, I mean, I guess technically you are making a trade-off.
You're obviously making a trade-off. I'm not going to go 13, 5, and 17 with AD Malzahar and everything like that. But yeah, I see your point when you're just deciding to take this path, and that path maybe won't give you the same damage, but it'll give you reliable damage on certain champions. I guess AD Malz and Orianna are very similar in that regard. So another kind of a broad question here. When it comes to these two champions, we'll start with Malzahar, AD. What is something you maybe didn't know about Malzahar in general, maybe not just AD, that you learned by maining him for so many games?
All right. One of the, let's say that one's actually kind of a tricky question. Give me a moment to think about that. Something I didn't realize.
I'll give you an example. I play and I've said this before, and I'll probably end up saying it again in the future. I play Gangplank only, and when I started, I had a concept of, okay, well, GP's garbage. I know that much. He can't win because of this. He can't win because of that. He loses because of this. He loses because of that. What I didn't know was how it doesn't matter, because his range advantage circumvents most of his problems. The only problem he has is with champions that either ridiculously outrange him and can just nuke him down at all times without any danger being put on them, or champions that have kamikaze all-in style that he can't disengage from. Everybody else and every other playstyle is completely dealable. With GP, I can farm up properly with my range. I can play safe with my my heal and my cleanse. I can just say I'm gonna hang back, I'm gonna farm, and I'm gonna be strong. I didn't realize how easy it was with him to just circumvent a lot of problems just because I have a ranged farming advantage. So, in regards to Malzahar, maybe is there something that you had a preconception about, that, like any other person who might be trying to play him as AD, that you learned or moved past as somebody who mains him?
I don't think I actually had a lot of preconceptions, and that might have been to my benefit. Again, I started this back in season 3. I wasn't the best player in the world.
well, there you go. You went in with a clean slate and you just said, hey, let me give this a shot. Maybe that's something that is an advantage.
I didn't no, they were so objective orientated until much, much later. I didn't know about the concepts of staying on top of the dragon or minion wave clear or controlling or et cetera, et cetera. Like,
well, I guess manning him kind of showed you the way, because then I guarantee you the first time when I tried your build long time ago, right when I read your I think your like second edition of your guide came out, and that's when I first watched the stream, and I said, oh Jesus, I think you just gotten Masters. But I remember reading about it and I go, is this really legit? And then I went and played it in a team builder game, and the first time I got Dragon, I said, hold on, and then I went back and watched the replay and I said, that took me 15 seconds? I said, this can't be legit. And then I went back and timed it, and I said, he's clearing Dragon faster than Warwick does. This is insanity. And then I said, holy crap, like that. I guess just the concept is that, hey, he controls objectives better than any other champion in the game, arguably.
yeah.
So when you saw that, there was certain, I don't want mean to make assumptions, but when the first times, like maybe when you were doing it, at first you said you just love monster champions. You love playing these, I think you call them minion mancers, these champions who are ordering around and dealing damage and being like a lording over lesser beings and stuff like that. I guess when you saw how that champion could be applied to a very objective-heavy role in the jungle, which is, let's face it, a secondary support at this state in the meta, when you applied that champion that way, you opened up like a new path for him. Before it was just, oh, he's an AP mid laner, or lol, his minions can deal a lot of AD. Once you open that other door, it was just, Jesus, why is nobody doing this?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I can understand why there's that hesitancy too, because it does have it's the hardest first clear in the game, that's for sure.
Yeah. I would completely agree with you there. I would admit that maybe LeBlanc has a harder one. Possibility. I don't know if you've seen Stonewall try to jungle with her, but it's quite hilarious.
Okay. I mean,
okay.
Beyond reasonable extent.
Okay, with champions that are meant to be in the jungle.
Kind of. I mean,
a little bit.
Yeah, that's sort of.
Okay, we'll leave that alone. Okay, he's got a shitty clear. That's the only thing we have to consider at the first part of the game.
Well, it's actually pretty alright. It's just really hard.
Oh, now you're telling me it's good. Okay, all right. Well, you sound like my girlfriend right now, sir. It's all right. It's hard. That's the best, Okay, well, let's stick with moving into Orianna in that regard. I know people want to focus on the AD Malzahar, but I personally think your support Orianna is really interesting. Similar question. What is something you might not have known? Like maybe you played Orianna and you said, so when you first started playing her, did you play her mid lane like everybody else, or did you just take her support immediately?
I used to play them at mid lane actually, and that's when I realized my helping instinct is too strong. I would regularly end my AP Orianna games at middle.
You're not greedy enough?
I ended with like 1 kill, 23 assists.
Okay, so you said I might as well take this bot lane. This show, I am not flashy enough to play mid right now.
Yeah. I mean, it probably was a mixture of just not being that good at it, and also, my helping instinct is really strong. I just want to help everybody.
Okay, well, let me ask you another question that might be a little vague, but actually not even vague, just kind of simple. So, just for anybody you're talking to that's watching this that wants to play AD Malzahar, wants to play Support Orianna, or anything else really that you want to list, and like I said, we'll list some of your alternative champion builds, maybe if you play them in the future, we'll get into another video. But for now, I just want to point to AD Malz and say, anybody who wants to play him, what's the big pitfall of AD Malzahar? Like something, maybe some road bumps you hit on the way when you were playing him, and like something that stops him from being good or something that stops him from being effective. And is there, furthermore into that, is there something you can do or you can emphasize to work around that? Like I said, I play GP, and at first I just thought that, oh, full carry build, do whatever, and I kind of learned very quickly that GP doesn't need to build 6 damage items. He only needs 3 or 4 to be effective, and then he can move into an off bruiser, much like a Jax would with a, Trinity Force, Blade the Ruin King, now I have Frozen Heart, now I can get tanky, now I can do this, I can do that. I learned that applies to GP. Is there anything in regards to AD Malzahar that you learned that like circumvents a pitfall or a road bump?
I think one big thing is that like if you start losing control of objectives, it becomes really hard to come back. Because once the opponents get dragon control, it's much harder than usual to retain dragon control yourself, and especially to get that 5th dragon by the 30-minute mark. So a large portion of that is preempting a lot of what your opponents are going to do. And so if you mistakenly preempt it, right? Like, a lot of the games that I lost of AD Malzahar is because I made a mistake near bottom lane about 40 seconds before the dragon spawned. Then we lose the 2nd dragon, and then we lose the 3rd dragon, and we lose the 4th dragon, and it just sort of goes really badly after that. So, a large thing about it is just being aware of where your opponents might be. And especially if your opponent is somewhere, where are they not? If they are in top, if their jungler's at top lane, they're not a dragon. If their middle is at top lane, they're now outnumbered if you decide to do the dragon. It's about being aware of your opponent's positions and taking advantage of it.
Okay, so you're kind of saying you might want to tunnel vision on those objectives because once you lose them, it's going to be a really hard climb back into relevancy.
Yeah, and that if you do fall behind, don't be afraid to, like, not build damage at all. A lot of times, if like I get an AD carry that's like 10 kills, and I'll immediately transition into a Mikhail's Crucible. Actually.
Okay, that sounds like something. Actually, I can see that working in regards to just like you said earlier, just kind of focus on utility because your damage will make do.
Mm-hmm.
All right then. So same question about Orianna basically. What is something that that you think could circumvent that you learned that could circumvent some pitfalls of her? Like maybe I know you said this earlier and we're just reiterating at this point, but don't play her poke orientated. Just kind of tunnel vision on that. The shield. Be strong in team fights. Keep your eye out for the right moments to use her spells. Anything like that?
I think the biggest thing is that I noticed that in all the games that I've lost as a support Orianna, I died a lot. Or significantly, way more than I should have. And it seems like Orianna support, especially among supports, is that once you start dying a few times, it becomes really hard to start coming right back up. And I think that applies to other supports like Janna too, so I don't think that's exclusive to Ori support. But you should really, really, really try hard to not die.
Maybe in that regard, treat her more like Soraka, where if you start falling down that cliff of, hey, they're getting more stats than me, they have a level or two on me, you really have to kind of take the hands off the wheel and say, okay, let me back up even further and make sure this discrepancy doesn't get any bigger.
Right, like I start and like I basically like just feed like all hell after a certain point. It gets really bad. I don't want to do that.
You are far from the only one. There's a reason even the best players only have a 60% win rate on their mains. I mean, it's ridiculous. Okay.
The road to progress is hard.
The road to progress is paved with 0, 12, and 2 games that we all have, and if you think otherwise, I guarantee, go watch Challenger players. They have those shit games just as much as the rest of us.
Yeah, funny story that just happened to me, actually. I think it was yesterday night, or was it this morning? I don't even remember. Somebody added me, and then they were like, wow, it's an inspiration that somebody like you could reach Master despite being such a bad player.
Dude, it's so inspiring to see how such a shithead can get as high as a ranked you. I hope you kill yourself. No, it's just I've gotten many a
I like collecting the insults.
I've gotten many as I personally love how you like list. I've started doing something similar. I got to start putting quotes down of people that like to flame. I was streaming a little while ago, and I was in lobby, and somebody posted in the chat. I said I do my usual spiel. I say, hello, I'm a GP only main. I'm gonna be going hopefully top. I will play with you. I can play any other role. And somebody said, just immediately today, it's been weird. The new season has kind of brought a lot of players up that maybe weren't here before. It just said, what? GP only? I go, feel free to look at my record. I'm rocking like a 58% win rate. I'm doing pretty good this season and whatnot. And just immediately starts lambasting me in the chat. Goes Bard support, who apparently is the worst champion in the game, everybody seems to think now. And I'd say, have you looked at his kit? Because he might as well just be really, really... He's pretty good. Maybe he's high skill cap. Anyway, yeah, okay. we go into this game.
Sorry.
I stomp a Fiora top laner, who is GP's hardest counter, I would argue. Her and Tryndamere. Stomp them, take 2 towers top, roam bot, get double kills, get dragon, stomp game into 20-minute surrender. And immediately after the game, I post, please don't... Somebody, and during the game, he gone Bard support and said, we lose, and because he wanted me to dodge, I guess, and he even said so in the chat. I forget what he actually said. I gotta go back and watch the VOD. And then all I'll say is... Literally, I just post a quote of what he said, and then he goes, I never said that, and I just said, oh, I bet you didn't. And it's just a matter of, yeah, you're complaining until I care, and you're complaining until good things happen. It's this thing of that. Okay. Well,
yeah, like
yeah, it's almost comical how many people just get entitled. Oh, you're playing a champion I don't agree with? Well, you can go to hell, sir. But
I have something so good for that. That a
right.
lot of people do. The climb of the Masters of AD Malzahar was filled with a lot of rage-filled teammates. A number of them who did add me, actually, at certain points.
Afterwards, and lambast you about it?
Or, like, be like, you're never going to get out of, like, Platinum with that. And then I did. And then it's like, well, you'll never get out of Diamond 5 with that. And then I did. Well, you can't get the Diamond Masters or Challenger with that. And then I did. And all of those people are lower ranked than I am now.
I can tell why you smile so much. It's really nice considering, haha, you're playing viable champions and you can't even see my taint from down there. It's just like, okay. So let's just kind of, we're kind of going to wrap everything up from there. This interview's been going on a little long. I guess we put a little too much content talking about 2 champions. I'll try to focus on one next time. But for now, I just want to ask you a couple of fun questions. Okay, I want you to rank the skins of each. We'll start with Orianna, actually. I want you to rank her skins from worst to first in your eyes. Like, I just like to ask people what their favorite skins are. You can get a good feel for who people like. You can get a good feel for people's personality depending on which skins they like. So, with Orianna, do you know all her skins?
Winter over default over everything else.
So basically, nothing else is legit except for Winter Wonderland?
Yeah, it's all about the Winter Wonderland.
Okay, so
Horror dance.
Winter Wonderland is first and nothing else matters, Black and Ola style?
Precisely.
Okay, so Malzahar, and hey, you gotta tell me, he's your main, so you better have a little more than just nothing else matters but this. Worst to first, starting with the worst.
Come on, Snow Day Malzahar.
Okay, he's worst?
No, best.
Okay, well, I just said worst at first. So, whatever.
Then, followed by the default. And then everything else is just okay.
What is with you and Snow? Are you living in the Rockies?
My favorite colors are like white and blue.
Okay, so well, no wonder looking at your insignia here on Skype. All right, well, okay, so let's just go ahead and say he's a snow fiend. We'll put it that way.
All about that snow, yo.
Oh, dear God.
I've been buying snow from the person in the alleyway for a while.
Somebody spam. Wait, what? Say again?
No, just snow.
We'll move past that. We don't need to.
We live in Salt Lake City. It snows a lot around here.
Oh, Salt Lake. Okay, well now this is a new level of irony that I can't even begin to uncover. Let's go into the last question here. I'll just ask them straight up. Who is besides the champions you play or that you've seen? Not besides you've seen. What is a champion you think maybe that people are sleeping on right now that's something you've seen do well or something like you always kind of you're playing solo queue and then you see that person come along with a champion you haven't seen in a couple patches and you go, I wonder if it's gonna happen. Then they carry, they move on. Like back in the day, back in season 3, like 2 or 3 patches after his release, I played with remember XJ9, the Hecarim guy, the guy who played Vi and all those other champions. He played Hecarim at a time where nobody thought Hecarim was viable. Everybody was saying, oh god, his first clear is terrible. He's never going to touch the top tier. That guy carried me harder than I've ever been carried in my life. farmed 3 lanes at once. Teleported bot. He didn't even take teleport and he had the spell. Took dragon. Killed. Triple kill. Absolute carry. Is there any champion you've seen or player that you've seen or something that you've seen that that maybe everybody's sleeping on and hasn't considered? Like recently I just saw somebody pick up Aatrox. And on NA, I see very few Aatrox players, and this guy absolutely stomped with tank Aatrox. He went tank AP. He went Sunfire. He went Blade of the Ruined King, Sunfire, into Abyssal and Zhonya's. And I said, this is retarded. And then I saw it work in a team fight, and I said, that's why, because his ultimate has a 1-to-1 AP scaling. And once he started just building AP, he would dive into this team fight ult, and everything would seem to die. So is there anything you've seen or you've done or maybe you consider that people are sleeping on?
I probably have to agree with the Aatrox. Every single time that I've seen it, it's like it's been performing really well recently, and I think the meta is starting to favor it a little bit more too.
Yeah, he also just got this buff that's going into tonight, where now every champion he hits, basically every champion that's in his radius when he ults now gives him a percentage of his blood well, so he becomes a much better team fighter now. I think.
Personally, I wouldn't be surprised if they became popular after the next patch.
I think people are really sitting on the tank build because I feel like at rank 1. His W by itself is a very good sustain technique, and then it lets you do that, and then you could basically just say, hey, I'm going to max my E and my Q. They're good CC techniques. They give me some AoE damage and some CC, and you can take up with it and then just become a kamikaze diver. You might not get the pennas you would with a Hydra and an IE and all this damage in the middle of the fight, but you'll sure as hell live longer, and you'll get off. You'll be able to get off those awesome spells 2 or 3 times instead of once.
Mm-hmm.
So anything else you've seen? No, not really.
No, that's about it. It's like it becomes. I think especially at Diamond and stuff, like when people start seeing a dominant strategy, they go to it really, really fast. Like
people really flocked to the top tiers. Like when Sion, when he got his change, there was that like 2 weeks where everybody was trying to figure out who he was, and then the Koreans said, "Hey, he's got enough base damage to murder everybody. Why don't we just start playing him raw tank top Mundo style?" Yeah,
and like we have to remember that it's like it's the lower the elo you get, it sort of trickles down, right? It's a trickle effect.
Yeah.
The people at the highest find it first usually.
Everybody's watching the top streamers and saying, "Oh, this guy did that. This guy did that." The guy who was streaming against BoxBox Was it Box Box? Yeah, it was Box Box. He
Yeah.
played AP Shaco top, where he had the Illuminati triangle of death. With the he maxed his boxes, set him up in a triangle, and waited for people to dive him, and then he turned and got double kills, triple kills. I did see an AP Shaco the day of that video going on Reddit, so I believe that you're right when it comes to that. All right, then. We're gonna go ahead and end the interview there. Thank you so much for your discussion. Thank you so much, guys. Please go watch AquaDragon33. He is streaming now. I don't know if he's going to be when this video's up, but he's currently streaming. He plays mainly AD Malzahar Jungle. Did get Masters level with it in Season 4, looking to get into their season. I believe you are currently Diamond 4 or 5?
5 at the moment.
Okay, currently Diamond 5. Well, thank you so much for your help. Thank you so much for coming on the show with us today. And if you got any shout-outs or anything you want to say, feel free to do so now.
All right, thanks for the interview.
Okay, no problem, man. Y'all have a good night. Trust you, no fear. Episode 3, out.